Oh, that's my mute.
Okay, we're about to go live.
All right. Oh, my bad.
Okay, good afternoon, beautiful people. This is your host. Got co-host Marcus in San Antonio. All right, so we
Hello,
was on a little
everybody.
hiatus because he was enjoying himself in LA, checking out the Egos
Yes,
whip up on
sir.
LA.
Yeah, it was a great game, good atmosphere, good energy.
It looked like it was. I really wish I was able to go, but
Yeah, I was like, dude, Matt should have been here. That was more fans than it was the last time in LA. I
yeah,
mean,
it
we
looked like
owned it. I think it was about 70% Eagle fan. It felt like a home game.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
But, okay, without further ado, we got another good one for y'all. This time, this one's gonna be a little different from what we normally do. So we're kind of teetering outside of the norm as far as like relationships, the spirituality and stuff like that. So we're diving more into sports on this one. So I hope you enjoy it. As always, like, subscribe, comment if you're able to, and remember to follow us on Spotify. All right, Mark.
Well, I just want to say hello, everybody, to a beautiful Saturday afternoon. It's gorgeous out here in San Antonio, like always, still like summer out here. But again, echoing what Matt said, just appreciate you guys for following us and comments coming in. I noticed that. And to my people out there that comment outside, make sure you comment on the link, subscribe, like, and share, guys. I appreciate the feedback. And I'm looking forward to this topic today. So with that being said, STS, guys, stay focused, trust your process, and most of all, stay consistent. And I'm going to let you go ahead and kick it off, and I'm going to get my notes together.
It's supposed to be your bad boy, but okay.
It is? What?
Yeah. All right, I can go ahead and start it. But so this topic today is are sports rigged? So I think rigged carries a negative connotation behind it. So instead of saying rigged, I'm going to say scripted, because that's the new thing that everyone is saying now. Is sports scripted? Is NFL scripted? Is the NBA scripted? Just sports in general. I don't know how many of you out there are actually sports fans, but the ones that are heavy sports fans, I'm pretty sure dating back to when we was children and stuff like that, when you're watching the games, and it just seemed like at the wrong time, it's always a bad call, like a call they didn't call throughout the entire game. But for some reason, when it's crunch time or the score is close, it's just this odd call that the refs make. So it always comes back to, well, why would they make their call during that time? It has to be rigged. And you can have like team that dominated throughout the entire regular season, but then when the postseason comes, it's like they just fall off and they're no longer able to play up to the potential or the level that they was playing in the regular season. So it always brings doubt, in fans' minds, is it rigged? Because it just seemed too suspicious that in the postseason, like I said, a team would not be able to perform the way they did before. So I'm gonna go back a little bit to like Tom Brady when he was with the Patriots. And everyone knows about the Spygate with him telling the ball boy to deflate the ball so that he can have more of an advantage. And then there was calls actually in like a championship game with the Patriots where Jacksonville was winning and the refs made a call that totally changed the outcome in the complexity of the game. And the energy and everything just switched and New England wound up winning. So it was always, to me, it seemed like some of his Super Bowls had asterisk by it because at some point in the game, whether it's in the Super Bowl or a game leading up to it, a championship game or just a regular divisional game, there was always some call that was made that benefited New England, like the tuck rule. That's where the whole tuck rule came in effect, is when they was playing the Raiders, and everyone knows that was clear that was a fumble. But the refs called it wasn't a fumble. They said he was passing the ball, and they wound up, I think that was the first Super Bowl that they won. So it's just, things like that to where it makes you think like, okay, something is not right, because it's clear to everybody else. They have replay. So how is it the refs couldn't see it? The replay booth couldn't see it, but everybody else could see clear as day that was a bad call. So it just leaves in your mind that the game sometimes are rigged. So that's more or less what we're talking about today. And I got some notes to bring some context to it, and not just based off opinion. And I know Mark got some stuff out there over there. So I'm just going to touch on a couple of things that I found when I was doing some research. So again, for those that follow sports, and I know, Mark, you know about this ref. He was in the NBA, and I think his name was Tim Donahue. And he was actually found guilty of rigging NBA games. He was calling fouls, excessive fouls that really wasn't a foul. And he was actually caught betting on some of the games and making bad calls to let another team win on purpose. So that's just one instance where, it was actually proof that there was a referee that was, benefiting another team more so than the other one, because he was paid off. Some would say the mob or bookies or whoever the case is, but he was paid to throw certain games. So that's just one instance. I think it was back in the 80s and 90s with Tim Donahue, where, he got caught making those excessive plays and stuff like that. So the big term now is what it's called. It's called match fixing. So basically now it's starting to go on the side of it's legal to bet on sports. So that's where the whole conspiracy theory comes in, as far as is sports rigged, because you got these big people, whether it's corporate owners, politicians, whoever it is, the mob or whoever, they're placing big time money on these games. And because they hold the power, they feel as though they got the refs in their pocket or the commissioner, and they're able to persuade, whoever, the officials or league officials or whatever it is, to allow certain teams to win. And just to touch on something, and Mark, you can jump in. Last year, was it Von Miller? He was on a podcast, and that was during the time where that whole scripted thing came up. And he was joking, he was being facetious, but it seemed like there was a little bit of truth in it. And so they was saying like, so how is it that the Chiefs were able to win the Super Bowl, and it looked like the Eagles was clearly dominating that game, and some people were saying that it was scripted? He was like, yeah, that's what they're saying. This year was Kansas City. Next year is going to be the Eagles. Then next year, hell, it might be the Buffalo Bills. And he was jokingly saying it because he was laughing, and the rest of them there was laughing along with him. But I don't know. To me, it just felt like there was a little bit of truth to it as far as what he was saying. So I'm going to leave it at that. And Mark, you can, touch on what you have over there.
Okay, so I'm gonna just go touch on what I personally believe, because I'm a big sports fanatic. Now, again, anybody that's watching this is all own opinion. It's not me stating facts or saying this is what is said or this is what's true. I'm gonna go back later and talk with notes that I got from actual players. But first, I'm gonna speak on what I feel, why I think sports is scripted instead of rigged. I'm gonna say it is scripted, and this is just my own personal watching games and just my own, personal belief, just the way sports is. Now, it's funny you said that about the Eagles and the Chiefs, because one of the football players, I think it was the Eagles, and a lot of people said they were saying that because they lost and they felt disgruntled, and upset. So they were saying that the field was not properly placed where the Eagles defensive players was playing. So a lot of people made a good point. Well, both teams had to go on both sides of the field because they always switch after each
Right.
quarter and a half. But he made a comment. One of the guys, I think it was the guy that went to Detroit, was saying that they just played in Arizona in the regular season. They didn't have any problem on the turf. But when it was the Super Bowl, it was just a lot of players was recorded and, saying that the field was ugly and it just was hard to get traction. So that leads up into the scripted part of saying that it was scripted for Kansas City to win that just because of the field. Now, I would just bring that out there. But now this is my personal opinion. I think it's scripted, and you said it earlier, Matt. It's just certain teams, the way they play is like, how can you play that dominant? And of course, in sports, we all know that sometimes it's just the momentum, the energy changes, it shifts back and forth. So I get all that. But when you're a dominant team and you're killing somebody, and then the next thing you know, you're just playing sorry and you can't remember how to tackle or shoot the ball or pass the ball or catch the ball, it leads me to believe what's going on. And then the reason why I think this, and this is all personal opinion, is I have someone that I know, I'm not going to say a friend or anything, but he bets on games. That's what he does. Like, that's his side gig. And he was telling me how it's big with the point spread. And if you look at a lot of games nowadays, a lot of teams cover those spreads. The over-under is a big deal as far as saying, like, if the Eagles and the Rams score 48 over-under, meaning it took totality of both teams, that's 48 or 32 is the under. And then the point spread, the Eagles win by 4 or 5. It's funny how teams lately have been covering that spread a whole lot more than they used to in the past. And it goes to ref making bonehead calls or missing calls, them phantom calls. And it's just like, how is this possible? And it's just meant for the game to go that way because of, again, a lot of people is betting and putting money on the over-under score. So I think when I say it's scripted, I think it's scripted more or less the way the outcome, meaning even if the team meant to win, they're going to have to cover that spread now. And it was even talking about the Rams, how they could have kicked that field goal at the end.
Right.
70-20, but they didn't. And I was watching one of the sports shows, and they were saying how the coach was real nice, but it made them actually cover. No, they said they didn't kick the field goal, so a lot of people that was betting on that got pissed off because it didn't cover the over-under score. So I just believe that basketball, football, a lot of teams is giving scripts to play and do certain things because they got to cover that over-under score and the point spread. Now, I was watching the game. We went live to LA. Now, that game was good. It was not a lot of penalties in there, but it was just certain plays. When you see it live in action, you're looking and like, how did that actually happen? There's no way you can miss that call, or how did they call that? So it makes me feel like, okay, they trying to keep the game close. Mm-hmm. And they want the Rams to score or keep the play going so they can potentially score. Because there was some phantom calls. It wasn't a lot, like I said, in that Rams game. But it's just other games in particular, when you're watching it, the refs make calls that's just like, seriously? Now, I'm going back years ago. I don't know if you remember this, Matt. It was New Orleans and, God, I can remember, I think Minnesota. It was Minnesota. And he threw that pass. And it was clearly pass interference. Right. And the ref did not call it. And it was, I think, for that whole offseason, they was making speculations that the ref was paid off, or they did that on purpose because they wanted New Orleans to get to the Super Bowl or the Minnesota. So I do believe, again, it's based off of the point spread and the over and under, because these refs don't make calls just accidentally and then they do a makeup call the next play, or they just stand there and they looking right at him. And we look on the Fanavision and we can see it. How in the world can't you see it? Even the instant replay, they still don't make the call right. So that's when it tells me, I believe that is over and under. Now, I'm a big Eagles fan, so I don't know if you've seen this, Matt. This is during training camp, and they was interviewing the players in the locker room, and they was just joking around, so they won't make it seem like it was a controversy. They said, "Is the NFL scripted?" Yeah, and some players laughed, And it was like, no, it's not scripted. And one of them said, of course it's scripted. And he's like, man, I can't wait to see the outcome if it is scripted. So I do believe that it is scripted again, because it's just boxing been years, been suspect as far as it being, fights that's being thrown or lost on purpose. Like boxing, I lost interest in boxing because to me, it seemed like that's one of the main sports where it's literally, you already know who's going to win, and it's based on the over under as far as the scores in each round. So it's just hard to really enjoy sports like we did back in the day. And I even think back then it's probably not as big as it is now, because it's drama too. It keeps you suspense, keep you on
Right.
your toes, on the edge of your seat, because it's something always crazy happening every week in basketball, football, baseball. I can't really speak on it because I don't watch baseball, so I'm not going to speak on baseball and hockey. But basketball and football, because that's two major sports that's global now. So I think they get more of the attention. So I think them two will probably actually affected more than you would say baseball or even hockey, just because the national exposure get worldwide. So I think it's more into it, more money's put into it with those two, basketball and football.
Yeah. Even going back to the game that you was at, the one call when AJ Brown was in the corner right before the half. I think that was the obvious call, and they didn't call it. And then going back to the Super Bowl last year, when the pass interference was called on, what's the dude named Bradbury?
Bradbury, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the players was pissed because they said the entire game they was playing the same exact way.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that was a makeup call, because it was a play before that where Bradbury obviously held him. You could see it.
Yeah.
And they missed it. And then at that last moment, like right before the end of the game, they called that penalty. So a lot of people believe that they wanted the Chiefs to win. Now that's where I believe that it's scripted or rigged, however you want to term it. I feel as though that they do have certain teams that they want to win because it brings a certain market value, to the sport. And just like Colorado with college football, when they played Colorado, that was the highest watched college football game in the history of college football at night during that time, because I think it was like a 10 o'clock game.
Yeah.
So I do believe there are certain games or certain teams that they want to make it because it brings more revenue if it's a small market team. Now, when you got a team that's just like when the Spurs was killing it, and who else is small market? Milwaukee. Yeah, it was kind of hard to really go against that because they was just that dominant. So, but I think when it's a series where it's close and it comes down to, a call here and there that can even it out, I believe that is actually, stuff put in place to allow certain teams to make it to a championship series. Okay. So I got some more notes that I want to look at. Okay, so it says, now there's no federal law that basically said that you can't bet in sports. So with that being said, because there's no federal law, anybody can bet. And like I said, you got corporate owners, politicians, people of power, people of influence, they're able to bet on these games. And like I said, and have a high major influence because of their status, because it's not regulated. There's no federal law for it. Now, there is a law that I think was implemented back in 1964 that prohibit gambling because they felt as though it was corrupting the sport. That's the only law that's out there. That was back in 1964, but even now they're starting to, move away from that and allow people to bet, like you were saying. Okay, so now this is something to think about. It says 49% of the past year sports bettors have placed a bet with an illegal operator, is what it says. So, you know, you got the underground betting system, then you got the legal betting like fantasy football, Vegas and stuff like that. But they got people underground where you can put large amounts of money and bet on these games. I don't know if you remember, I think it was New England when they played Atlanta, and we was at the Twin Peaks, and the dude was pissed because what he said he had like $150,000 or something on that game.
Crazy. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was like going around telling everybody, like, man, this can't happen. New England can't lose because too many people put so much money into it, and more than what I put into it. I'm talking about millions of dollars. And it's just coincidence that Atlanta just couldn't do nothing. They totally dominated the whole first half and the second half. Bonehead plays, like why would they run it opposed to why would they pass it instead of running it? Going back to when New England beat Seattle. You know, a lot of people saying that Pete Carroll wanted Russell Wilson to be the hero, so he passed it instead of running it.
Right, yeah.
So it's just so many, you know, speculations and stuff out there as far as some of these games that's being rigged and stuff like that. But anyway, I want to get back to this. So now this is the refs make $2,000 per game. Okay, and anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000 for a playoff game. And then for the Super Bowl, they make $50,000. So the reason why I'm bringing that up to possibly have some significance to it. So if you have somebody out there, they're not making that much money. I mean, it's a lot, but it's not a lot compared to, you know, what the athletes and stuff are making. So if you got somebody out there like, hey, I give you $500,000 if you call this call that can help prevent that other team from winning. So I think that has some significance to it because that to me, they'll be easy influenced by money if they're not making that much. You know, and then the athletes, the winning team makes $157,000 additionally, and then the loser makes $82,000. So because money is involved, to me, you just never know if that's a bargaining chip for somebody to say, hey, you make more money if you don't win this game, or if you allow a certain call to be called, we'll give you an extra bonus on what you're making, 2 times of what you're making. You know, so not even just in football, but in basketball too. You know, there was reports going back that there was some athletes that was actually taking money to shave points. You know, like they would purposely miss or not score, whatever the case is. So they make that extra money and, you know, that team would lose. So it's just so much speculation and stuff out there that I don't think anybody would truly ever know. You know, it's just going to go off, like you said, the eye test and just the flow of the game, you know, regardless of what sport it is. Okay.
Yeah, so that's true, like you were saying about that, about the point shaving and all that. But that's one of the athletes. So what I'm saying right now, this is not me making this up. This is literally something that I seen on one of the sports shows. So if you Google it, you could probably research and find out. But the player was stated saying that when they asked him, is it scripted? He said it is. They actually come to the locker room and there's scripts sitting in the locker room telling them, this is how the play gonna go. You're actually gonna get a hamstring in the third quarter. So you won't be able to play. You'll be out 4 or 5 games. So people's like, well, what is that gonna do? The difference with me, again, I think it's more or less about the betting and the gambling, and it's more about the over-under score. Even if the team wins, it's scripted so that team can win because that whoever's betting, like you said, the big wigs, they're going to benefit from that. So one of the star players had to get hurt. Guess what's big nowadays? Fantasy football.
Yeah.
I don't know if you play it, but anybody that plays it, a lot of people bank on these certain players to get certain points or touchdowns or whatever to help them win, and they win that pot. Now, this is something that's funny about the Eagles. And you text me, it's like, damn, we're going to look. All these injuries is phantom to me because I watched that game. I did not see one time any of the health, the personal trainers come out there and tend to any of the Eagles, unless I missed it. But when I watched that game, I didn't see anybody get hurt. Where
they got hurt in practice.
Knee problem, Carter got an ankle. The Justin Evans is out with a knee. So it's just funny that you got like 5 players out and they playing the Jets. Now, a lot of people saying the Eagles still should win. I guarantee you that score is going to be a whole lot closer, and the point spread is 6.5. Now, it's going to be weird if the Eagles do win and they win and cover by that score and the over-under. So to me, it's interesting how we get certain players that's hurt. And I'm not saying they faking injuries. I'm just saying that it's just interesting to me that certain players get injuries that you didn't hear about during the game, but during the week, or something that got hurt. And it could be during practice. So I'm not saying it's totally out of question. Just again, that's interesting to me. Now, on February 1st, 2023, Arian Foster, that used to play for the Houston Texans as running back, he was on a podcast called Show Barstools. And he was stated actually saying that the NFL is rigged with players receiving scripts at their lockers. He's the one I was just talking about. Doing training camp, they get that, and it's like, hey, it's like WWF. We know what's going to happen, but you still got to go out and put on the show. So that's what I believe. Like when you watch certain teams now, Baltimore, I don't know if you saw that game, but I watched a lot of these sports shows, and they was ragging on Baltimore on how they lost that game, and they was all saying it was the weirdest game they ever watched because Baltimore was counted for dropping. The receivers dropped like 6 passes in that game. And they showed the highlights, and these was easy catch. I could have caught that. And the way they dropped the ball, they weren't trying to catch it. And they were saying, like, it's funny, Sherman Williams, he was saying on I watched Prime Video, the Thursday night game, and they was on the half, and he was saying it looked like they was hated Jackson, like they had something against them, the way they kept dropping the ball. It's like, it was just so weird. It's like maybe he pissed them off or something. They went out there and had a bad game because the way they played, they could have easily won that game. So that just goes to show you that, again, certain teams supposed to win certain games because of the point spread, the over-under. It causes more revenue, like you said, more ratings. And it's a dramatic season now. Now the whole AFC North or Central is real close to each other. I think Dallas losing to San Francisco was scripted. I really think that game.
I don't know about that. They got whooped on.
I'm telling you. The reason why I say that is because the way that they play is just funny to me. And I know it's all about matchups. I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, you can't deny a better team beating a team that's not good as them or superior. But to me, how can you play good one week and the next week you just get dominated that poorly or that badly? So to me, it's just, again, I'm not saying it's just interesting. Now, I'm going to read this other thing. They said the biggest season for controversy was the 2016 Browns. They was considered tanking that season on purpose so they can get the draft pick. So I believe that's another thing. Teams lose or they know they're not going to go to playoffs. They just kind of play the season out so they can get the number 1 draft pick or whatever college prospect that's coming out. So that's scripted as well. I think they've been talking about Denver. I don't know if you watched that game Thursday, but they look, Russell Wilson just don't look like he don't remember how to play football. And they were saying that at this point of the season, they might as well just tank and just get the number 1 pick. And guess who's going to be the number 1 pick?
Yeah, I don't know Caleb Williams, supposedly.
Huh?
Caleb Williams, supposedly from USC.
Yeah, the guy from USC. So I just believe that after a while, teams script to say, you know what, we're not going nowhere. Let's look for the future. He's the number 1 prospect. They try to get rid of all their players to get all these draft picks so they can rebuild. And I think the Sixers kind of started that with the process they did. Right. Where they was noted for saying they've lost seasons, consecutive seasons, so they can get Simmons and an Embiid. So I do believe that it is scripted. I just, nowadays with too much going on, with too much money out there, with fantasy football, it keeps you more suspense. So it just keeps people going because they got to figure a way to keep making money. So they said, what better way to make the season more dramatic and more parity and no more dominant teams like it used to be, So I do think that. But I mean, as long as they they do win at some point, I mean, I guess I'm sitting here contradicting myself. by saying that it doesn't matter. It does, because it's not right. You're not giving, to me, 100% to the fans, because the fans come out there to watch. And if you half-assing it just so you keep it more dramatic, I don't think that's fair, because we paying all that money, $300 for a ticket, and you lose the game on purpose. That's not cool. But these people that betting is the ones that's getting the bigger end of the stick. Like I said, that guy knows the money he put on games is ridiculous. And this is like a living for him. He makes a living off of that. So it just amazes me. That's why I'm really convinced that sports are rigged or scripted, because the money that people are putting into it, like you said, if this one guy I know that's doing it, can you imagine how many other people is doing it? And it's just average people. Imagine, like you said, the governors and people of power that, really can make an influence. So, yeah, I do believe that.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's entertainment. So,
yeah,
what other way to keep us entertained?
Yeah.
Okay. So, KJ have a couple of questions and one comment. The first question she asked is, doesn't the replay prevent a lot of bad or questionable calls? Can't they call for a review of a play from up top by overseeing officials? Yeah, they do have replay, but still it comes down to a human to decide if that was actually what happened. So I think sometimes it is beneficial, and then there's times where it's like, man, that was a catch, and they say it wasn't a catch. So it just basically comes down to that individual. To me, that's still a human error, and it can be based off of their perception of what happened. So it can still, cause controversy. But yeah, replay, to answer your question, is supposed to help prevent a call being called that should have been called or shouldn't have been called. Okay, then the other question or statement, she says, there was a man on Twitter that predicted an injury on a player in football, and it happened just like he said it was. I don't know if you heard about that, but he was on Twitter, and he basically said when Aaron Rodgers got his Achilles, he basically said, well, Aaron Rodgers is going to get hurt in this game, and he's going to tear his Achilles. And then it actually happened. Now, see, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, KJ. Y'all, please forgive me. I had a video with Aaron Rodgers. I promise you, he was in the locker room. He was walking in on crutches. He took the crutches away. And the dude was like, what the hell? He said, what are you doing? How are you walking? This dude was literally walking. Like, he just had Achilles surgery a month ago. And this dude is already walking. They gave him like a special shoe that allowed him to walk. So what I looked up was his sports rig. And so they had like 3 videos. And that was the first video that was posted, was him walking around in the locker room. You couldn't even tell he had an injury. I mean, he had like a slight limp, but it wasn't to the point to where you knew that he had an Achilles injury, because that's a serious injury.
Yeah,
that's not something you would, huh?
No, I'm sorry. I'm gonna let you finish, but I got a comment on that one. So I'm kind of on the fence with that.
Yeah, so that's why some people think that that's rigged. They don't think that he actually had an Achilles. They think it's part of the script. And because he said earlier he wants to come back if they make it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now, if they make it to the playoffs and he comes back, then it comes all back to that whole, is it scripted? Right. You know what I'm saying? So, and then the other video was 3 videos. The second one was Colorado versus Stanford. Now, I've never seen this. Now, this is why I say stuff is just made up. I promise you, it was like in the second quarter, Colorado was winning 14-0. And the ref came up and said, the public announcer, will you please stop playing that? And he penalized the Colorado team 15 yards for unsportsmanlike conduct. How the hell you do that for the darn public announcer? Yeah. So I mean, it was that in sports. Yeah. Right. It was 14-0, but still, it could have swung the game to the point to where it gave them advantage to, get the ball back, whatever. Right. So that was just another suspect thing. And then the third video I had was LeBron James. I don't know if you saw this. They were actually playing against the Warriors. This joker went in the locker room at halftime and came back in civilian clothes. Eating, yeah. I mean, granted, it was a preseason game, but just the simple fact that there's stuff that's going on, calls
Right,
being called that's not in the rule book that no one
right,
never heard before.
right.
And now you actually have an NBA player, a superstar,
Yeah,
going into the locker room and coming back out after the half in his street clothes. So it
mhm,
just lets feed to the fuel of
yeah,
that sports is actually rigged.
right. Yeah. So I'm gonna respond to the first one that KJ said about the review. Yeah, I agree. It does help, but it doesn't change the outcome if it's meant the script is meant for it to be what it is. Like, I don't know if you remember the receiver for Dallas. God, I can't remember his name, but they changed the rule because of him. It
Oh,
was
Brian.
Green Bay versus San Francisco when he caught the touchdown and he held it all the way to the ground and it came
Yeah.
out and it ruled it incomplete. So because of him, that's the reason why you have to complete possession all the way to the ground. It's because of
Yeah.
that. So my point is, even replay, and I ain't gonna lie, that was a touchdown, but they didn't
Yeah.
give it to them because they wanted San Francisco that year to get to the Super Bowl. So to me, replay helps, but like you said, human error. If they meant for the other team, they still do the replay, but they still can miss a call. It's still under further review, and if the fans get all crazy, like how the hell? So yeah, it's supposed to in reality, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen if it's scripted to be the actual outcome. And then the other one with the one you was talking about, and I was just about to say that with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, when he said, "Oh, I'm coming back," that's when I was like, "Ain't no way, dude. Ain't
Yeah.
no way you coming back." Because look what happened with KD.
Yeah.
And this is the reason why I say it could be possible. I don't know if you saw the video because I watched that game Monday night, and they did that 3D zoom in.
Yeah. I
You could
seen.
see his calf literally
Yeah.
fluctuate and like it. That I was like, oh, he popped his Achilles. And you know, man, you went to school for this. When you get a calf strain, what does that usually leads to? Injury.
Achilles, because it's
Achilles.
not
What
strength.
happened
It's
with
not strong enough.
KD?
Yeah.
Yeah, KD, same thing. Remember in the finals, he had a calf injury and they brought him
Yeah.
back too soon, and then
Yeah.
he tore his Achilles. So I would say Aaron Rodgers, if they didn't show that video when they showed his calf and to do this, I would say, yeah, it's a script if he comes back. I just think he's wishful thinking, hoping, or maybe the injury isn't as bad as they say it is. But I do think something happened with that calf, that Achilles, from that one video they showed on the football field
Yeah.
when his foot got caught in the turf.
I mean, he
But
could
you
have tore
didn't
his
see
calf muscle.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Unless it's not as serious as they put it out there, that'd be
Yeah.
the only way that he would come back. And they just literally just making it a dramatic, oh, Rodgers come back at the end of the year and take the Jets somewhere. So that would be the only reason why I would say that. But that injury to me looked real. I'm just saying, you're right, it
Oh
could be
no.
a strain.
Yeah, the injury was real. What I was saying is that it's not as serious. I don't think it was an
Yeah,
Achilles
yeah,
because
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
when Brandon Graham tore his Achilles, he was on crutches for about 6 months.
right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
So this dude, like I said, it was barely a month, and he's.
yeah,
I wish I could show that video. Well, I sent
yeah,
it
I
to
didn't
you,
see it. Yeah, I didn't see it.
but dude was literally walking around. But
Right,
anyway, so I don't want to just stick on football, but
right.
boxing. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you remember Luke Paul, and he was boxing. I forget who it was. It was one of the former. He was a former champion,
Mm-hmm.
and he won the fight. But you can clearly see, like when they show in the slow mo, you can see. You know how they sometimes when they lean on each other. He
Mm-hmm.
leaned on him, and you could see his mouth moving. He
Right,
whispered something to him, and he went to hit him, and he dropped. His hands was up like this, and he
right,
whispered something. As soon as he whispered something, he dropped his
right.
hand, and that's when he came over with that right hook and got him. So I think if any sport that's rigged, I think boxing is like the number one.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
sometimes the fighters take dives. I mean, I know you
Mm-hmm.
get stung a couple of times, you're going to drop your hand, especially if they attacking the ribs and stuff. But
Right.
I just think boxing more so um, than any other sport. Now, I
Mm-hmm.
got some other notes that I got doing the
Yeah.
research. Now, I didn't know this. So they said soccer is the most popular sport in the entire world. Like more
Yeah.
people watch soccer than any other sport.
Mm-hmm.
And Europe has the most incidents across all sports. So they actually account for incidents as far as it being rigged or, betting and stuff like that. So soccer was 64 at number one. They had 64 incidents. Asia was number two with 161. So soccer was number one. Baseball was number two with 62. Tennis was third with 53. ES Sports, I don't know what that is 47, and then hockey was with 15. So those are the five major sports that actually have incidents that's, caused people to be fired based off of throwing the game, betting on the game, bad calls, whatever the case is. So
Right.
they actually do keep a tally of that stuff like that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, I don't do soccer. So I'm gonna take a back seat on that one just because I don't really watch it. So I'm not gonna comment, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's just like you said, if it's the number one sport, worldwide, I can imagine there's a lot of money in that too. So that's probably have to be certain games that have to be won and lost as well. But I'm gonna read, and I know you say you want to get off of football, but it's just because this is a sport where it's primarily more, I think, considered to be scripted. It was players that was suspended in 2023 for betting on games, and one was Detroit Quentin SCG is what they call him. Quentin Moore, Washington defensive end Shaquille Tony, all got suspended for betting on games. Isaiah Rodgers and Rashad Berry of the Colts. All of them was just this year. They got suspended for like 4 games for betting on games. So I know we kind of already touched on this, so it's like reiterating the same thing. But that's just giving you a little material again to show you that if you betting, and they didn't say if they betting on their own team, but it was one guy. I just couldn't find it when I Googled it because I heard him talk about it on the news where he betted on his own team. And I think they actually released him, like they cut him. So if you're betting on your own team, you can best believe he had a different outcome, or change the outcome of that game if he was betting on his team to win or lose. So that just goes to show you, just again, it's so much betting going on. It's the only reason why I'm personally convinced that it is scripted, because there's too much money to be lost if and win in this. So it's just it's easier. It's easier to make money on. Like I said, that guy I know, this dude killing it. And all he does is freaking gamble. I'm like, maybe I'm in the wrong business. If all you could do is gamble and be balling like that, and it's not legal, so he ain't doing nothing dishonest. He's just taking chances. I'm like, I don't know how you do that and feel comfortable, but literally that tells you that these sports are scripted nowadays so people can come out on top, And I've been watching NBA last year. I think it was meant for Denver to win that. I mean, it wasn't really no controversy in the playoffs, but I just think the way Miami played versus how they played to get up to it, it just seemed very interesting how they just couldn't do anything in that finals. Then they get swept. I believe they got swept.
Yeah.
So I just think it's interesting how teams play, and then certain teams they play are just totally opposite. Now, if you dominated, you dominated. But if you don't even put up a fight, that's when I feel like something's up. It's like, come on, you can play hard this whole year in the one game that count. You don't even play that hard. To me, it's just something about that don't add up. So, but
Okay.
I'm going. Go ahead.
So I got another question. So KJ says or asks, what kind of financial markets benefit? Do you think this goes as far as the stock market as well as casino? How far up does this go? What is balancing? That's a hell of a question. Now, unfortunately, that information is not going to be privy versus the internet because they don't want anyone to know that. Now, if you're asking just based off of our opinions, as far as what financial market, I think the stock market, in a sense, could be part of it, could be affected by it. As far as the financial market, I think some people are actually using crypto now, and even blockchain. So I think that market can definitely be affected by it. How I couldn't tell you because, like I said, that's not something that you can actually research. Not that it's illegal, but because I don't think they want that information out.
Mhm.
And the other one, what is balancing? So I'm not sure what you mean by what is balancing. What's balancing out the game not being rigged, or as far as bets? If you can just clarify what you mean by it when we say what is balancing.
Well, real quick, man, I'm gonna comment on that one about what businesses are fun. I would say, and this is just me playing devil's advocate or playing like a scenario. If you have a big time banker or owner comes up and tell the NFL owner, look, I got a lot of money riding on your team. They need to lose this game so our team can benefit. I mean, our bank can benefit and you get a cut of that, because that's one thing about boxing. When boxers tank, they would bet, everybody bet on the loser to win, like the underdog, and then they go back and change the bet to the other person, and that way the loser gets money and the person that bet on the other one. So I think that's how they do with sports when it comes to gambling. These big institutions put money on it. They tell the owner of the team, look, this is how this script gonna go. Y'all need to lose this game. This is how much money's involved. You do your part, you get a cut, we get a cut. Next week, y'all win and whatever. But I'm just playing devil's advocate in my perception, my lens. That's the way I see it. Just from talking to the guy I know and how he bets on games. It's literally over under, meaning what the total score going to be, what the lowest score, and what that point spread is. In gambling in casinos, you best believe. Wait and see what the Super Bowl is this year. It's in good old things. So that's going to be an interesting Super Bowl. And when you go to casinos, anybody that been to Vegas, if you ever go to casinos, they have live gambling in there for sports. If you ever go in there and they got the TVs and you in there making bets at the casino on those games. So yeah, that's why, casino, Vegas, they have a lot to do with it. They benefit a lot. And it's funny, like I said, this Super Bowl is going to be very interesting who gets there and who wins, because that's going to be a big chunk, a big deal on who wins that Super Bowl. And I think San Francisco going to win it. I think they set up to win it this year. I really do.
Yeah, I want to touch on that too. But real quick, so annually, this is what they perceive or they believe that people make off of bets, or how much is made off of bets. $180 million on bets annually. So that should just give you an idea as far as how big it is. And that's just on football. That's not any other sport.
Right.
But now to touch on what you were saying with San Francisco, I believe that they want San Francisco to win because Brock Purdy that's the story.
Right.
Now, I was watching some of the sports shows and they like ranting and raving about this dude. I mean, granted, he is balling. He really can ball. But I'm like, okay, CJ Stroud, he's a rookie. He has more yards than him, the same amount of touchdowns, and same thing, he's not throwing any interceptions, but yet he's being looked at as MVP. So I think they look for certain people that can be the face of the NFL, the face of their brand, and they try to market that. That's a story. Like, it's a feel-good story. He was the last pick in the draft, and here it is. He won 10 games straight, never lost.
Right.
And I think they want them to make it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the year plays out. But like I said, like you said, I believe that they're looking or want San Francisco to make it. And I think so many people is going to bet on San Francisco.
Exactly.
And once they start bringing in the numbers, seeing that, okay, we can make X amount of money if San Francisco make it to the Super Bowl and win it, then that's when all these suspect calls and stuff like that is going to come up.
And I'm telling you now, it's just a prediction, but it's going to be San Francisco against KC. And I'm going to tell you why they want San Francisco to win. Who better than to beat in the Super Bowl than Mahomes, when he's considered the face right now, the best quarterback? So the last guy to draft considered the best quarterback. Like you said, that's a feel-good story. It's a storyline, and I'm telling you, they want KC to get there. because I don't see nobody else coming out the AFC. Maybe Miami, but they ain't got no defense. So I honestly going to see San Francisco for KC in the Super Bowl. And for basketball, I think it's going to be the way they want to set up. LeBron going to get back, and it's going to be versus Miami.
Boston.
No, not Boston. It's going to be Miami again.
Miami don't have nobody though.
No, I'm telling you though, just because of the over under, the revenue, the team, Miami, it could be Boston. I think it'll be Boston because of the storyline, because of the history.
Yeah.
And in baseball, it's going to be the Houston Astros. So now again, that's just my own personal opinion. I don't know. I'm just saying from the way I see the season's been going, and the Phillies might get back there. It's going to be a rematch of last year's World Series. And it's going to be a back-to-back champion. They want Houston to win.
Okay.
So that's just my bold prediction. So.
All right, so I just want to add this because the topic is the sports rig. So there are some teams in different countries. So when I said sports, I don't just mean in the US, I mean like globally. So actually teams in Mexico was banned for purposely throwing games. Then it was Boston College basketball players. They found out that they was actually shaving points. And then there was a Russian tennis player that was detained at the tennis open for allegedly fixing a match. So there's proof out there, and in certain sports that people are taking money to shave points or to lose a game, whatever the case is. So, and really to answer the question, it's rigged to an extent, maybe not on a very expansive level, but it's definitely there. And this is just the stuff that's known. So you can imagine the stuff that's not known.
Hey, I just want to say this, Matt. So all the viewers out there, so y'all be thinking, why y'all just coming down on sports? And who are y'all to determine that? Just remember, the stuff we coming up with is stuff that we researched and found. Like these are actual former players that's stating this and putting this out there. Now, of course, you could say, well, they just being disgruntled. They want to start controversy. They just making it look like it's bad because they have animosity. All this, again, could be speculation, but it's too many players that's coming out saying this. And that's why I believe it's some truth to it. Now, at the end of the day, it's all speculation. But we all look with our own two eyes, as they say, the eye test. If we play sports, if you know enough about sports, you have enough to see that some of these games and these refs, the calls they make, is suspect. And I go with the players now. After reading these articles and these players that's betting on games, and now I understand why they play like trash. And one player that's in particular that I be wondering sometimes is James Harden. Because that dude, it's like whenever he get in the playoffs, it is always the conference finals or the next semifinals, this guy just literally plays like garbage. Remember all the way back when he was with the Houston Rockets, and this dude was just like shooting threes, missing, throwing bad passes. I mean, how can you be an R-star, a future Hall of Famer, and when it's the best game that counts, you play your worst basketball? To me, that just don't add up. You cannot be that scared. You cannot be that intimidated by the volume of the game. I just don't believe that. You play 15 years in the league. I wonder about the guy sometimes. I know I'm putting it out there, but anybody that watch basketball, James Harden, if you know his history, the dude is Casper in the playoffs. So that just makes me wonder. I'm serious. It makes me wonder about him and what is he doing to play that horrible when the games is on the line. Mm-hmm. So that's just something to think about, in my opinion.
Okay, so I have a response for Diamond Girl. She asked, I've heard balancing, not sure what it is. What percent of sports is rigged on any sport? Is football? Is it 1% to 50%? Okay, Diamond Girl, I don't think you was here when I mentioned this. So there's 5 sports across the globe, not just the United States, but globally. So they broke it down as far as soccer is being number 1. So they actually have counted incidents where, rather if it was point shaving, illegal betting, whatever the case is, they tallied it as an indecent event. So soccer was number one. Basketball was number two. They had 62 incidents. Soccer had 694 because soccer is the biggest sport globally than any other sport. Tennis was number three with 53 incidents reported. Esports was number four with 47 incidents, and hockey was fifth with 15. So football wasn't even on there, which is interesting. I guess you can't really gauge it, and no one was actually caught in the NFL other than the players Mark mentioned last year that was caught betting on football. So, but it wasn't like they was shaving points or anything like that. They was betting on the game. Like a player, it's illegal for a player to bet on the game. So let's say, for example, Cincinnati was playing Denver, and I was like, okay, I'm going to bet Cincinnati's going to win, and they're going to cover the point spreads. That's illegal for a player to do. So I don't think that's why they really counted that, because it wasn't going against the game, it was just going against the rules as far as a player actually being allowed to bet. So I don't know if that makes sense or not, but hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, right, what? I'm sorry, waiting for something. Now, this is going to be totally, it's not off subject. I just want y'all to follow me on the story I'm trying to create by what I'm about to say on why I think betting not point shaving, betting, the over under, why it makes a big difference on why I say it is scripted. Now, this is me at work. Y'all know in the past.
Real quick. Could you explain to people exactly what over under is?
Okay, over under for anybody that's not, into sports that much. Over under any sports, basketball, football, hockey, is the over score is the highest score that both teams combined will score. So let's say your Eagles play the Jets tomorrow. The over score would be a total between the two of them 48 points. The under would be the lowest. Let's say 30 points. So the Eagles can beat them by 20-10. That's 30 points under. Now over will be the highest. That would be 48 points total combined. So that would be 34 to whatever to beat the Jets. That's the over-under. It's always the over is the highest. The two teams will score together. The under is always the lowest. The two teams will score for the lowest point. That's over-under. And then the point spread is the key because that's where a lot of people put more money is on the point spread. Let's say the Eagles bet line is 6.5 points. So that means they have to win basically by a touchdown or 2 field goals. The 6.5, I don't know where they calculate that because it's really not going to be 6.5, but normally 6 would be 2 field goals. It could be 13 or 17 to 10. That's 2 field goals, right? Or 16 to 10, I'm sorry, would be 2 field goals. That's 6 points. So that's what the point spread is, or 2.5 is basically almost 3 points. If you win 23-20, right? Or let's say you 48-45. That's what the point spread is as far as 3 points, 4 points, 6 points, 27 points. That's usually a blowout. But the over-under is the highest between two teams. Now, what I was going to say with the story I was going to tell you about betting. Now, my guy at work, my boss, I always tell my coworker, I said, this dude is a hustler. He hustled before he did this as a manager. Because like I said, anybody know and watch our podcast, I work for a manufacturing company and we do exhausts for the trucks. Now, it's the components that we got to put together. So one of the components, a girl kept messing it up, and it's called faulting it out, meaning it messes up. Something went wrong. So the supervisor comes up and he goes, Mark, what's wrong? Why does she keep messing up? I said, well, for one, she's new. She's not really trained on this, and she's trying to go and learn on the fly. He said, that's not that. No, we said it's the machine. He said, it's not the machine because this girl is new and she don't know what she's doing. I said, well, how come it happened to me as well? I've been here a year. He said, well, you don't know what you're doing. I was like, no, look, it's the machine. So he goes, I bet you $100 that it's not the machine, it's you. I said, what you going to do? Put the money where the mouth is. The thing that made me laugh, this is a supervisor telling me, I bet you $100. Now, really, I never seen a boss anybody tell me you seen a boss is betting you at work on something that's happening at work. So I go,
Was he
okay, put
serious?
your money where your mouth is. So he goes and grabs one of his other guys that's an expert and tells him, okay, build me 20 of these real quick. So the moral of that story is he created an outcome because he knew he was going to get somebody else to do it to prove a point, because this guy's like the maintenance of guru on the machine, but he was going to bet on it because he knew that he had somebody that was
That
going
can
to,
do it.
cover it. So I think
Yeah.
that's how sports is. When you betting, you're going to know because you're going to get or tell somebody this is what you need to do so y'all can win this game. And that could be to the refs or one of the players. So that's why I'm kind of convinced, because when you have somebody that's betting and they convincing and they power to be, whatever the case, that's usually what happens.
Okay.
That's just my little story. That's my spin on it. But
Now I'm going to go back to something you touched about as far as the Eagles.
yeah.
Now, those two players got hurt in practice, but it made me think of something when you were saying that.
Mm-hmm.
I think they don't want the Eagles to win. I think they tried to level the playing field
Right. Yeah.
by
Yeah.
taking out two major players and say, okay, these two
Exactly.
are not going to play or whatever the case is. Look, this is what I got to do. Y'all got to have Carter and
Yep.
the other dude out. So that way it levels the playing field. So it gives the Jets a better chance. So now the Eagles lose. The only undefeated team is San Francisco.
San Francisco. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So if the
Exactly.
Eagles continue to win, then, they start picking up steam and stuff like that. And they can actually beat San Francisco because they had the same players they had from last year, with the exception of one.
Yep.
So I could see how being scripted is saying, okay, these players you got to say is hurt. So that way it makes the game a little bit easier, or it gives the Jets a better chance to win.
Right. Because that's just weird. Like I saw this player, and I'm like, and I watched the game. Now, only person I seen could have got hurt, he didn't even get hurt, was Jalen Hurts. I thought they was going to say he was going to be out of the game.
Yeah,
because the way he twisted that ankle,
I
was like, he's going to be hurt in the next couple of days. So that was interesting that out of all the people, he the only one that didn't get hurt. He the one that had to me, the most significant looking injury in that game on Sunday. So that's where, when you told me that, and then I saw the report yesterday, I'm like, like you said. And a guy was talking about this at work. He said they went, and he said the same thing exactly you just said. They want the Jets to win because San Fran would be the only undefeated team. And then plus, it's a feel-good story with the quarterback, Zach Wilson, or whatever his name is. Who better to beat than the second best team in the NFL?
Right.
So I'm telling you now, if the Eagles lose, not saying they will, but you're right. They had key players out to make the difference in that game being an even field.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's part of the script, guys.
All right. So with that being said, that's going to wrap it up. It was, like I said, it was a topic that was different from what we normally do. Hopefully everyone enjoyed it, learned something from it. I know it's one of those conspiracy type topic things, but and I know somebody's probably saying, okay, with all the stuff that's going on in the world, what significance does it have to do with anything? It's a game, but it does, because people are spending money, and people are being controlled in a sense. And to me, that's not cool, but not to get on no righteous rant, anything like that. But for me, I do believe sports is scripted to an extent, and I believe it's scripted because of money is involved. And I think money drives everything. And I think the actual consumer, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, you're gonna pay for what you want, rather if it's scripted or not. You're still gonna pay for it. Right. So that's what I have on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna end on that note. Like, it doesn't make a difference, because entertainment at the end of, well, I shouldn't say it doesn't make a difference, but it is entertainment at the end of the day. So that's why they're doing it. I believe that it's just another way. It's where we at, where it's going to be drama. People love drama for whatever reason. It draws attention, and it's a moneymaker. So that's why all sports figured it out. Like, hey, this is a good way to keep us bringing in revenue, is keep this interesting and not make it too predictable. Because remember, back in the day, we already knew who was going to win. It got boring after a while because it's the same team.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this, where it is significant is because we got the young ones growing up that we teaching sports to. So it shouldn't be where we're showing these kids that we teaching football and Pop Warner and IAU for basketball, that it's okay to do this because it's going to get you money. So it's bad on that note that we're teaching the younger generation that this is how it's going to be, and it's okay. And it's not by verbally, but by action wise, it's showing the younger generation this is what we do and this is okay. So that's where I feel that it is bad, because it's teaching the young ones the wrong way on how to play sports and not really be passionate about it, but to figure they can get money off of it, which we are here for. But you do something you love, it should be some loyalty to it and not just cheat the game by doing stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's entertainment.
Okay, I'm going to answer this one question real quick from KJ. She said, is there a history of a head coach throwing the game or betting on the games too? Throwing the game, no, but I do believe there was a coach. It was in college. I don't think it was the NBA or NFL, but I believe he was caught betting on the game. But that was like real further back in the 80s and 90s and stuff like that. So hopefully to answer your question. Again, beautiful people, likes, subscribe, comment, check us out on Spotify, and y'all enjoy the rest of your day. And it'll be aired again on Wednesday by 3 p.m.
Yeah.
All right.